Hi, welcome to the third video in our mini-series called Clinical Conversations During COVID-19, brought to you by the therapists of Perspectives Counseling and Psychotherapy Centers. My name is Raquel Ornelas, and I'm here with Chris Tennant. We both see clients in office and via Zoom, and we hope that today's clinical conversation reaches a lot of our clients and people that are out there watching that may be struggling, need some help, guidance, support, or just know that probably what they're going through is normal and that you're not alone. And you can reach out to us for help, and we hope that you do. We are a large group private practice. We are insurance friendly, strengths based, culturally aware, and inclusive, and we seek to empower all of the clients that we are in contact with. So I can't wait for to start our conversation today. It is really an exciting and very important conversation. The changing dynamics and challenges of romantic relationships during COVID-19. Wow, because there's a lot, depending on who you are and what you do. All of us have been affected in some way, shape, or form, whether we're single, in a relationship, dating. There's a lot going on, a lot to think about that we may not even be aware of. So Chris, start us off with maybe one of the top things that your clients are talking about.
So safety negotiation, I think, is probably one of the biggest right now. How do we have these conversations with family members and partners and friends about what's safe and what's not, and what you're safe with and what you're not? There are some clients that don't feel comfortable leaving the house and even going to the grocery store right now. And I have some clients that are going out to bars and not wearing masks. So it's all about your comfort level and having the conversation. But also, when I think it comes to safety negotiation, it can also open the door to have a discussion about other boundaries and other safety issues in the relationship. So if it's a new relationship, I think it opens the door to talk about safer sex practices too. We're talking about what your practices are in engaging with other people, not just socially, but sexually as well. You can talk about, are you wearing masks? Are you social distancing? What's your STI status? I think these are really important questions to be asking. And I think they're difficult conversations to have, especially with a new partner.
I think you hit the nail right on its head. These are already difficult conversations that most people would just assume avoid, right?
Yeah.
But how can you avoid the unavoidable now that we're dealing with COVID-19? So people need the words, they need the language to be able to bring this up. They need to feel confident and they need to feel safe being able to talk to a current partner or a new partner or a new interest about these things, because it comes down to boundaries, assertiveness and boundaries, and understanding who you are, what you need, what you want, and being able to express that effectively and respectfully with your partner. So it's gonna, these things, these concerns and these questions are important, but we may miss the opportunity to dive into them because it's uncomfortable.
The other challenges when it comes to safety that some of my clients are experiencing right now is long distance relationships. To meet each other, they're having to fly on planes. And right now, I think we're what, July 1st or 2nd now? there are record outbreaks across the country, and there are a lot of folks that just don't feel comfortable putting their safety at risk to go see their partner, but also
Mhm.
putting their partner's health at risk by traveling too.
Yeah, what is a good compromise? Can people can people feel at least a base minimum of connection without being in the same room at the same time? I'm sure that this, even if you don't live, if you're not in a long distance relationship, right? You could live in the same city or same state, but it kind of feels like long distance now if you have if you've been living on alone separately with under the shelter in place. So it kind of starts to feel like a long distance relationship. And those can be very taxing, very difficult and exhausting relationships because you don't have the physical connection. You don't have the context in which most relationships thrive on.
It's it's really difficult. What do you do when one of your partners or somebody in your house is immunocompromised?
Mm.
Then you're also responsible for their health and like what you do in your daily activities. Are you going to go to the beach? Do you feel comfortable going to the gym? Do you feel comfortable going out to a restaurant when your wife or your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or however they want to identify is
Hmm.
more likely to get sick? Do you stop living your life? Which
Another way of saying it is, how much are you, how much has your life been restricted because of
yes,
the pressure to keep people safe, right? So there's a very good intention there. But the practice of it, like technically, maybe being more restrictive, being more safe, um, can cause problems for the person that is following those rules.
what happens if you have somebody in your household that's immunocompromised? Do you go out? Do you do
Mhm.
anything that could potentially put them at risk? And I know quite a few couples where one person has pre-existing health issues and the other partner has done an amazing job of taking care of them, but is also feeling the effects of the isolation because they don't want to socialize with somebody else and potentially infect their partner.
Yeah, social isolation is a real thing. Like you had mentioned before, we are neurobiologically wired for social interaction, connection, and relationships. And it certainly has taken a toll on all of us. I think it depends on a person's temperament, whether have you been an introvert? Is staying home, working remotely, not going out much, having quiet evenings, is that something that's right up your alley? Is that what you enjoy? It's what you've always did. Chances are this isn't going to be stressful, or it's not going to be that big of an adjustment for you. If you tend more to being an extrovert and very social, really enjoying going out, finding a lot of pleasure in meeting people and a lot of different people, you're going to feel, chances are you're going to feel bored, frustrated,
Yeah,
and lonely. And if that happens over a certain amount of time, it could become depressing.
it can have a really deleterious effect on your mental health. And that actually brings me to our next topic of self-care. Like if you're sheltered in place with one person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it can be really taxing. And there are
Mm.
so many couples that have reported feeling increased agitation with their partners and increased fights. which
It makes sense though, doesn't it?
it totally makes sense. I can't imagine being, I hate to use this word, but just stuck in one spot with one person
Well, I
for
mean, it is.
months.
We were kind of forcefully stuck to be with our housemates,
Yeah.
right? So your partners, um, when typically you would both have an opportunity or be required to get out of the house, have some time and space and privacy and get a break. And when I say a break from the relationship, I don't mean to say that the relationship was bad and needed a break, but it is a natural human behavior. And thank God, built into most of our schedules that you're not together constantly.
So what happens when you have those fights? You're
Right.
at home with the same person. And
Yes.
one of the things that I've been talking to my clients about, which was a little different during, it was a little difficult at the beginning of the pandemic, was, do you feel comfortable going for a walk outside and just cooling off?
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable?
Such a great idea.
If you need to get out of the house because your partner's driving you nuts, do you feel comfortable going to the grocery store? Do you feel comfortable going to get that prescription at the pharmacy?
Hmm.
Do you feel comfortable seeing a friend in person? Are you going to be 6 feet away wearing masks? Like, it's just this incredibly complex and difficult situation that we're in. And what I really want to impart on everyone is that it's okay for our mental health not to be great right now. And if you are feeling challenged, this is the perfect time to reach out to a therapist.
Yes, I love that because you're normalizing not feeling at your greatest, right?
It's
If
okay
you
not to be okay.
It's okay not to be okay. Give yourself a break and really honor and respect and acknowledge this huge adjustment that we all just came through, and we continue to define or conceive of what our new normal is, but we're still in it. We're not out of it, right? But it is a normal reaction to stress. Any big change is stress. And then when you think about the levels of change and what we had to do and how we had to do it so quickly, with the background of not knowing, right? Not having the information, not being able to control a situation, it just throws us all off track. So we're basically not running at 100% capacity. We're not typically our best selves. And how does that impact relationships? You probably have less patience. You probably find yourself more frustrated. Um, you probably don't have the empathy for yourself, let alone to give to your partner.
Absolutely. I think the absolute must for everyone during this pandemic is self care. We have
Mhm.
to find ways to take care of ourselves and bring a little bit of joy into our life every day. So that can be a little tough if you are a parent, for example, and you are home with your spouse and kids 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's okay to go, you know what? Mommy's going to go take a bubble bath right now. I'm going to be gone for 45 minutes. If the house burns down, come find me, but leave mommy alone for 45 minutes.
Yeah, unless the house is burning down,
Yeah.
please leave me alone.
One of the couples that I'm working with, they alternate who cares for their child. So the father will look after their newborn while mom goes to the gym and decompresses and gathers, like, the physical fitness is such a game changer when it comes to mental health. And this was her outlet. And
Hmm.
when the gyms cut off, she didn't have access to her key self-care. And she,
Yeah, not and that all of that pent up energy, stress affects us physically, right? So one way to work for the body to work off stress is through physical activity. So imagine if you are affected by stress physically, as we all are, and mentally and emotionally, and you no longer have that outlet, you no longer have that. How else are you working out that energy? How are you clearing your mind? How are you calming yourself down? How are you taking care of yourself and feeling a sense of yourself and taking good care of yourself? It's like it was gone in a flash.
I think it's not just yourself. So if you're in a relationship with somebody, not only do you have your relationship with yourself, but if COVID has put some strain on your relationship, what do you do for care for your relationship?
Yeah, Karen. Yeah.
How do you work on keeping yourself bonded to your partner? Like, what kind of activities can you do that are fun and enjoyable that'll make you feel close to your partner when
Hmm.
you might not be feeling the greatest? Going for a walk along the lakefront is one of my favorite recommendations. It's romantic. You get some fresh air and you get some sun.
Yeah, you get a little exercise, you get fresh air, you're out and about, so you're among people, but not necessarily having to interact with them, right? So you feel like, oh, you're part of the world again, which I think is actually really important for couples, um, because I think couples tend to tend to have an energy or a momentum. I think they thrive when they can spend time with other people and be outside of themselves. I think a lot of the problem is that it was you and your partner 24/7, and it almost became like there was nothing else, there was no escape, nothing else to do. So you're just constantly thinking about it. Now, if it was good things, wonderful. But typically, the things that might occur to people during this time is the things that bother you or annoy you, or the problems that you haven't been able to solve. Maybe problems that came up during COVID-19, right? So, unless you can get out of your own head, if you look at yourself as an entity, and your relationship as another one. So really there's always at least three entities interacting simultaneously. You, your partner, and the relationship. You've got to treat that relationship as a thriving entity in and of itself. And sometimes that means you got to get out of your head. Your partner's got to get out of his or her head, and you got to take the relationship out. It needs fresh air. It needs sunshine. It needs a break.
So, on that note, one of my recommendations for a lot of couples is get out of town. And I'm not necessarily saying get on a plane, but rent a cabin. We live along a gorgeous lake. There are cabins all over Illinois, all over Michigan. Go spend time with your loved one and just decompress from the rest of the world.
I think a change of scenery, a change of pace does a lot to inject freshness and vitality to the relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really great suggestion. Another thing I would say is that adjust your expectations. We are in COVID-19, okay? So rocking crazy date nights or going out and about, there's probably not a reality anymore. There's a lot of grief around that. I get it.
Oh, yeah.
But if we want to deal with life on life's terms, then we've got to find a way to have fun but on a different scale. That's really difficult for people individually and as a couple. So, okay, did you used to go out to fancy restaurants and beautiful lounges and spend a lot of money and get all dressed up and fancy? Was it an actual event that you planned and looked forward to pre-COVID 19? Chances are you're going to be highly disappointed with what your date nights look like during COVID 19, right? You may be doing puzzles, you may be playing card games,
Yeah.
you may be watching movies or TV shows, you might be cooking yourselves now, your own meals at home, right?
So
Very different.
one of my clients, what they've done, and I've been absolutely tickled by this, is they have made their date night that they have once a week. They cook elaborate multi-course meals for each other, and
Sweet.
it's wonderful. And then they just banter back and forth while they're cooking, and then they sit down and enjoy a wonderful meal together. You
That's
have
great.
you have to find ways to navigate this and that work for you. There's really no one size fits all to mental health, and finding out what works for you, it's going to be difficult.
And you may not even, if you're so used to one thing, you may not know that there's other things out there. I
Yeah.
think a lot of us have been forced into finding new ways just by default. It's like, well, we can't go out. What else are we going to do? And by that, does that mean that our relationship is any worse? No, but a lot of people have problems with like boredom, for example. They need some excitement from the outside that they haven't gotten. So it's like, okay, guys, this is not forever, but it is now. And I get it. And you should be able to talk to each other about it so that you both are like in the same boat. Like, yeah, this is not what I would choose to do,
Yeah.
but it's what we got. And then you can find, you can have a shared connection and have a good sense of humor about that. Like, oh boy, this is what we're doing now. But it's also a time to make memories and to say, wow, we went through that, we did that. Can you believe we were doing that for so long? And
Right.
we actually survived. We didn't kill each other. We're still together, right? And then there are going to be other couples that do break up under the weight of this.
Yeah.
Another important thing to talk about too is, was your relationship, and maybe this will be for another time, maybe another conversation, but breakups during COVID-19.
Well, that also comes back to self-care. So what would you do during a breakup normally? You go see your friends, you might go out with them. You can't do that in the
Nope.
same ways now. And there are a lot of people that I've been talking to that are just feeling really frustrated because they're like, my heart hurts and I can't go do my self-care right now, which is seeing my friends and family.
Yeah, their support group, right? They would usually get with their group of friends. They'd talk it out, have a good cry, go for a drink, have a meal together. Some people might say, you know what, the best way to recover and get out of one relationship once that is over is just to get right back out there. Oh, can't do that, or can't do that in the same way. So now what? So now we have people that are in pain, alone, at home, sitting with all of this misery and not really sure what to do with it.
On top of a pandemic.
Exactly. Exactly. So, um,
If your mental health isn't great right now, that's okay.
that's okay.
It really is. And don't be afraid to reach out to a professional. Be kind to yourself in these really difficult times. That was one of the hardest life lessons I've had to learn for myself, and that I've had to remind myself repeatedly in this pandemic is, oh, I'm in a bad mood. You know what? It's okay not to feel so great that day.
There's a lot of pressure. I mean, I think we feel a lot of pressure to um, be happy all the time anyway. But that would be a very, very daunting challenge to ask anyone under these circumstances. So I think the point is, okay, if I can't be happy all of the time, can I get some happiness, a little happiness each day? And it's almost like a new way of approaching life. Like, okay, where does happiness come from?
What brings you joy?
Yeah, what brings you joy? And this, and how do you get it even when your old ways don't work or are not accessible to you anymore? So there's a lot of stuff there, and I'm sure I'm really enjoying the clients that I work with, individuals and couples, on a lot of this stuff. um, and I'm sure, Chris, you're really having a great time helping people navigate relationships.
One of my favorite parts about being a therapist is that I get to honor somebody's experiences and help them navigate some really difficult life situations, be it from something you can't control, like a pandemic, to something like a breakup.
Yeah, that's right. And honestly, honoring the breakup might be at the forefront. Maybe for some clients, the pandemic is at the forefront because
Yeah.
it's changed so much or done so many things, right? For other people, it's like going through a breakup, whether it's COVID-19 or not, is really hard. It just sucks for a lot of people. And so how can you help people get through that? It's a process, and how to help them get through that when their supports that they would have counted on before may not be there.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I think we are at time.
yeah, we're at time, so we're going to have another clinical conversation soon. For those of you that joined us for this, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for sharing. We hope that this helps anyone out there struggling with basically the human condition during COVID-19. Um,
Thank you for joining us today.
if you would like to learn more about me or Chris, you can go to perspectives-counseling.com. We also have a Facebook page. Perspectives Counseling Centers is the Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you, and we wish you well. Take good care. Thank you. Bye.